What is good, my fellow Pokemon Legends ZA enthusiasts? Welcome back to Unhinged Society, where today we'll be having another discussion video. The topic of today's discussion video is going to be the use of an authorized Pokemon in Pokemon World Championships VGC. Now, to give a little preface before we get into the video, I'm pretty sure most of you watching this have seen the events that unfolded in the 2023 Pokemon World Championships VGC event, where a numerous amount of players were disqualified, or rather, their Pokemon were disqualified because they were not obtained legitimately, right? This occurred back in August 11, 2023. It had a prize pool of 100k USD. And what happened basically was the tournament officials disqualified VGC players for using hacked Pokemon at the 2023 Pokemon World Championships, right? Now this was Japan, and Japan is stringent regarding fair play in video game competitions. The Pokemon World Championships have never been an exception, as multiple Pokemon trainers were disqualified for using hacked Pokemon at the VGC. Now, let's talk about how you can obtain an optimal Pokemon, right? You can spend hours grinding the game for the perfect Mon, you can breed and train them or use bottle caps to get the ideal stats, or you can use a software called PK Hex to modify your game save file and manipulate the stats of your Pokemon to make them ideal for your team. Now, the PK Hex method is significantly frowned on by the Pokemon Company for obvious reasons, which is why it led to the mass disqualifications, right? The Pokemon Company states that even if you edit the creatures in your roster to the level of legal ones, it is still considered cheating. And if you get caught with a hacked creature at the World Championships, you will get an instant disqualification. This was the case with a trainer who used mod or classed as Gen Pokemon in his roster at Worlds. We're going to use the trainer Brad Smith for an example. He went to Twitter and he said he got DQ'd at 2-0. He should have gotten the Mons himself. Half of his team was modified / gen. He didn't have Legend Arceus to get the Landorus. He didn't have his copy of Sword and Shield to get her Shifu. He tried trading for the Mons with a reputable trader, but the Mons didn't pass. He showed the pace he was going to use and he said, "I'm sorry, I will do better next time." Now, let's just go ahead and talk about it, right? If you are a Pokemon trainer and you plan at competing in official events, you more than anyone else should be completely aware of the rules and regulations that surround these types of competitions. Especially with the fact that there are monetary prizes involved, the Pokemon Company is going to insert the highest level of integrity checks that they can do to make sure that everyone who is winning won fair and square, right? The Pokemon Company doesn't care about whether or not you had enough time to play the game, whether or not you had enough money to buy the games you want. The message that they're sending is put the money where your mouth is, right? The Pokemon Company is saying if you're going to show up to our events and you're going to put in the time and the money to travel to our events, there should be no reason why you don't have the time and money to invest into our merch, which is the Pokemon games, to obtain the Pokemon that you want. Now, me personally, I have not competed as of yet, but in the months before Pokemon Legends ZA dropped, I spent hours shiny hunting on Scarlet and Violet for Mons that I plan to use in the future. I would never entrust someone else to obtain Pokemon for me. One, you can never be 100% legit or be 100% reassured that the Mons that you're going to receive from said individual that you would entrust to get them for you would be legit. And two, I would just much rather do it myself, right? I'm not leaving it to chance. I'm not leaving cash prizes on the table to the possibility of somebody not doing things the right way. And this is where we're going to get into today's topic. We're going to be looking at Dar Patel and his tweet that he just made, or made some hours ago, about having one of his Mons disqualified because it did not pass the hack check. He says on his Twitter post, "He trusted new friends, which is the first red flag, to help me make my team. Hack check took away his Ursaluna. There were zero problems with any EVs or anything. He got no explanation. He had to lose game 1, and he had to play with only 5 Pokemon for the rest of the tournament. He states that he is heartbroken," right? Now, the first red flag is trusting new friends. Why would you trust someone that you just met? This isn't the case of somebody that's been your friend for years. You're trusting someone that you literally just met to help you make your team. Then hack check. Whatever hack check that they have is obviously at a greater capability than PK Hex, because PK Hex is notorious for being able to tell you whether or not your Pokemons are hacked or not. However, the hack check that they are in possession of is of a higher caliber, because he says there were no problems with the EVs or anything. Then he said he got no explanation. Of course you didn't get an explanation, because the people that are running the hack check look at the Pokemon and they know exactly what happened. Pokemon are coded in the Switch games to be legit when you are encountering them authentically. The only time that they can be illegitimate is when they are encountered inauthentically. So that's the reason why he didn't get an explanation, because the Pokemon Company knew exactly what was going on. He had to lose game 1 and play with only 5 Pokemon for the rest of the tournament. Heartbroken. Now, we have to have a talk about accountability here. Like I said before, if you're putting money on the line to go and compete, because going to these places, unless you live in the city where the competitions are taking place, is not cheap, right? So if you're going to go ahead and make sure that you're going to purchase tickets for flights, you're going to purchase hotel room stays, you're going to do all of the things that you need, why would you not pay attention to base 1 and make sure that the foundational reason why you are going, which is to compete, making sure that your house is in order, that your boxes are checked off, that your horses are in the stable, right? You don't want a situation of, oh, I'm going to beat that horse when it gets there, which is basically what happened. The horse went to the competition, one of your Pokemon was illegitimate, and now you're beating the horse when it gets there by having to play with only 5 Pokemon for the rest of the tournament. We're having a talk about accountability because there's no one else to blame at the end of the day but yourself, right? If you wanted an Ursaluna, 1, you could have bought the game, played Legends Arceus, got the Peat block, and evolved your Ursaring when the moon was full. You'd have your Ursaluna. I think the major issue that is coming up with these events where individuals are being disqualified for hacked Pokemon is because everyone is trying to get the jump on each other when it comes to things such as speed creep, etc., right? You have optimal sets where individuals want to run certain IVs on their speed on their Mons so that they outspeed the other Mon under Trick Room or in Tailwind. The technicalities, they get very specific, but at the end of the day, the reason why the Pokemon Company frowns so heavily on cheating is because you didn't just happen to encounter a 2-speed IV Ursaluna, right? You didn't just happen to encounter a 29-speed Among Us. Whatever the meticulous sets are, most individuals are not encountering these Mons by chance. If you were encountering them by chance, the Pokemon Company would have given you the green light and there would have been no issues. However, when you're able to hit PKX and go and gen in a specific IV for your Pokemon, you cannot deny that that isn't giving an advantage of some sort. Because unlike the person that spent multiple encounters trying to encounter a specific IV Pokemon to use in competitions, you simply jumped on PK Hex, edited in your IV, and called it a day. The Pokemon Company, mainly Japan, doesn't look at that as fair or authentic. You're basically cheating someone else who put in their time and effort to obtain whatever they wanted out of a fair win. And this is why the Pokemon Company will probably never release the data for the hack checks that they are using, because it is stopping things like this. Now, like I said in my previous videos about cheating, if you want to go into your Switch and you want to modify your game save file and you're doing things of whatever nature and you're keeping it contained to yourself, by all means, knock yourself out, right? We're not going to sit here and act like there isn't an elephant in the room of people going into PK Hex, modifying their Pokemon, and then getting on the Battle Stadium in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and in previous games, right? We all know that's been occurring. It's been happening since X and Y. X and Y came out, people got into PK Hex or Pokegen or whatever it was at the time, and they edited their Mons so that they could have optimal Mons for competitive on singles 3v3. They did the same thing for 4v4, and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some saint either. Back in X and Y, I found a Electrike, and I evolved it into a Manectric, and it turned out that it had the optimal stats for Hidden Power Ice. I spammed that Manectric till the end of time. And then when the next generation came along, I decided to turn it into a shiny. Now, of course, it still passed the legitimacy check to get online, but that's not a legitimate Manectric. I didn't obtain it shiny. I did obtain it with the optimal Hidden Power Ice stats, but I didn't obtain it shiny. Now, everyone can look at that and be like, yes, shininess is not, it doesn't make you better, it doesn't make you good at the game, it doesn't give your Pokemon an advantage. Sure, but you'd have to go ahead and look at the contrast. A Pokemon being shiny versus a Pokemon having optimal IV stats for a certain hidden power are two different things. You can say that I cheated less in that scenario versus an individual who found a shiny and then went on to edit their IVs to give it a certain hidden power. The Pokemon Company has seen all of this unfolding, and this is why they have been moving in directions to reduce the randomness chances that we are seeing come into play. They removed hidden power from the game. It no longer existed with the start of Generation 8. They're removing certain IV mechanics and stuff that we're seeing with the move towards Pokemon Champions. So at the end of the day, while Pokemon is cracking down on people genning mons and trying to use them at VGC events, they are also cracking down on the random ability and the randomness of things that are taking place. Because hidden power is something that someone just could never prepare for, and IVs and all of this technicalities and specific IV spreads and all of this editing that's going on, they're trying to shut it down, which is why the games will be moving towards Pokemon Champions in the future. All the competitive tournament events will be basically moved to this sandbox where everything is going to be crunched down and there will be little to no room or excuses for any cheating. So all of the events that you've seen taking place in the past, it has all led to this point in time. Pokemon Champions is going to be the end-all be-all to the cheating, and with the Switch titles moving to the Switch too, like I said in my previous video, there will be no more cheating online, right? No one's going to be able to get a jailbroken Switch online. It's going to get shut down instantly, and the cheating in Pokemon will finally come to an end, right? So I hope someone watches this video and applies the advice for the future. If you plan on competing in official tournaments, you're going to need to go ahead and make sure that you obtain those mons yourself, or leave the work to a trusted friend who you know is not going to just go ahead and hit up PK Hex because you paid them to make a quick buck, right? So that's really it for the video. I wish you guys the best, all the future competitors, and I hope you learn from the mistakes of these individuals in the past. Don't gen your Pokemon, don't hack them in, because it's only going to hurt you in the end. You're going to do all of this work, you're going to get to the destination to compete, and then you're going to get your mon disqualified, and your strategies are probably going to go near to waste. So that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Hit the comment section, let me know what you guys think, and I am out of here. Peace.